What's up, fish heads? Welcome back. Long time no see.
We are back with number 4. So all of you that have been tuning in, thank you so much. Fresh Friday is all about freshwater. So
yes, if you guys haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, helps us out tremendously. We're giving away a ton of stuff. We have huge sales going on. To get the details on that, head to waterboxaquariums.com. We're giving away 4 $500 gift cards this episode.
Yep.
Schedule is a little tight, so definitely head on over to the, the website and fill that out. You got the first 30 minutes of this episode to fill out that giveaway. So
yep, we'll drop a bonus word for the grand prize giveaway entries. Keep an eye out for that. But we are talking to some owners, some Waterbox owners who we chose to spotlight, and this is one of our favorite kind of sessions to do in our events here because it really is an in-depth way. But we found 2 really awesome Waterbox owners who are going to tell us all about their aquarium.
excellent. Are we starting with Dwayne?
Yep.
Ready to roll. All right, fish heads, we have Dwayne with us here coming from Brooklyn with his beautiful planted freshwater tank, and it actually happens to be the photo contest winner. If you guys remember, we just ran a photo contest and he was the winner of that prize. So let's welcome Dwayne.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate you guys awarding me a prize for the tank. Thank you.
Well deserved, and part of that was actually being able to join us on Fresh Friday. Our viewers get to learn more about your planted aquarium, give them some inspiration on what possibly to do with theirs.
Yeah, I like the contest idea because it gives people a little bit of motivation to join us for these types of events. And this will kind of get the word out there that they can submit their photos and get to join us here. We typically find our tanks from the Facebook group, but this was a pretty unique way to actually get some entries for it. So.
Yeah. So let's learn about you a little bit first. You know, how did you get into the aquarium keeping hobby, and then how did you find out about Waterbox?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So it's interesting you mentioned about the photo contest, because my aquarium keeping hobby fascination started with going down a YouTube vortex, as it were. So I got wrapped up watching a bunch of videos. Somehow the algorithm pointed me towards planted aquarium. Somehow that pointed me towards looking at a lot of different aquascapers. You know, looking at stuff from Takashi Amano and his accolades, and looking at some folks in London, some folks in Eastern Europe, and then obviously got to you guys, and I saw some of your videos on YouTube. So that was my inspiration, right? So at first, growing up, I would say I had tanks and I had, you know, kept fish. I wouldn't say I was a fish keeper by any stretch of the imagination, but getting really into planted tanks, particularly freshwater systems, is something that's new, and it really arose from me being bored one day looking on YouTube.
I think YouTube traps a lot of people into different hobbies by that.
That's one of the things that I really like about the hobby in more recent years is that you do have the internet to find all that inspiration. I mean, there's, like you said, you can go down a rabbit hole on YouTube or on Google Images and get so much inspiration, whereas, you know, 20 years ago, there wasn't nearly as much of that, especially on the YouTube side. So,
yeah.
What made you choose to go with a Waterbox for your aquarium?
Yeah, you know, so again, going on that, so I got on the YouTube vortex and I got a tank initially, and it was a small tank, and I said, this won't do it all. So it was a way for me to experiment whether or not I wanted to do this or not. So I got like a little 30-gallon tank, and I started putting some plants in there, just a way to sort out whether or not I could actually grow things. It worked out for a little while, and I think I saw a video or recommendation from somebody who said, if you're going to do this, you always going to want to go bigger. So go with the biggest thing possible, with the most water volume. So it really, then that eliminated, you know, quickly eliminated some choices. I knew that I wanted something with low iron content, and I knew I definitely wanted a sump. The sump was very important because I wanted to try to automate as much of this process as possible, make the cleanup and kind of maintenance process as easy as possible. And I didn't see myself going into a canister filter periodically. I just wanted to reach into things and clean them up as best I could. Also, Joe, meet you guys. The reviews I read on Waterbox. I spoke to a few guys that I knew here in New York. A couple of the guys that helped me set up the tank. Um, they were recommended you guys, so it was a natural choice, and it's worked out. I've been quite pleased since I've had it a few months now.
Happy to hear that.
So what model is the water box again, and how long exactly has it been set up?
Yeah, so this is the Infinia 190.5, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the Infinia 195.5 is initially, I think it's set up to be a reef tank. So it's not one of your freshwater tanks per se, but I suppose any tank that can hold water can have fresh water in it. I received it. Kudos to you guys. You guys ship things so fast. I think I ordered it in the middle of March, and it showed up on my stoop in Brooklyn like 10 days later, maybe. I was shocked by how quickly it came, because then I had to like scramble, and obviously I live in a brownstone, as I was mentioning earlier, before we came on camera, and I was scrambling to get some guys to help me bring it in my house, bring it down to where I set it up and set it up. So it came remarkably fast. Well, that was about 4 months ago. It's been up and running. I did do a decent job of coordinating the arrival with some time, over a weekend period. So it arrived like on a Thursday, and I had some plants come in on Friday, and I'd been collecting a lot of the hardscape for several months. So I had all that in place. So I was able to do the initial scaping over the course of about a week or so to get everything set up.
Well, it looks beautiful. Talking about scaping, though, you have it laid out. You've had it planned in advance, I guess, kind of how you wanted it to look. So you have your scaping that you had your parts for, and you also have, explain a little bit, because we have a picture of the driftwood with like a plate under it. What is that for?
Yeah, so I did spend some time collecting some driftwood. We have fortunate to have lots of aquarium shops around within a reasonable distance to where I live. But the plate on the bottom of the driftwood, I actually drilled into, it's like some slate tiles that I had around the house. So I drilled into the bottom of the driftwood in order to keep them down, right? So wasn't trusting that any of this driftwood would actually stay anchored to the tank at any point in time. So until such time they were properly waterlogged, I wanted to make sure they stayed at the bottom of the tank. But that's I think what you're showing now is like an early mock-up. This is actually the second photo here showing an early mock-up of kind of how I was thinking about the stones. I've changed it quite a bit since that the initial photo, initial design. But yeah, so that's what I did there.
Very smart, because if you don't soak your driftwood, I mean, even so, like a lot of times you can have it kind of shifting around, and soaking driftwood can take weeks and weeks and weeks for it to become waterlogged. So that makes sure that nothing is going to move for you, and you get the scape that you want.
Yeah, I really like that, because it really, I mean, it secures it there permanently, and if you bump into it or something like that, it's much more stable. So.
Very smart idea. What would you say is like the number one thing that you learned along the way from kind of like starting your setup to getting completed that you wish you knew from the beginning?
Yeah, so the whole battle with algae is like something that is super frustrating. Everybody experiences. Like even in the you probably don't notice it now, but I'm looking at the tank right now, and I can see some algae on a rock over my right shoulder. And I think just being accepting of the fact that algae is going to be there, and you got to do your best to combat it, and having the right parameters in place, but not getting frustrated and not letting things get total out of control if there's a little bit of algae around the place like that. So I think one of my biggest frustrations, going back to this YouTube analogy that I started with, is that when you see on social media, what you see on YouTube are kind of a tank at a snapshot in time, like the perfect snapshot in time. And most tanks don't exist in the perfect snapshot in time every day. And to the extent you could have a tank looking perfect in a pristine condition, that might occur for a day or two, but there's always something that's going to go wrong. That's just part of the process. It's part of nature, and it's embracing, right? So I think just embracing that part of the trade and just accepting the imperfections for what they are is something that, I've learned over time, but I wish I would have known when I first started out kind of.
I think that's a really, yeah, it's a really good point, because I think people see all these beautiful freshwater aquariums and they don't understand when you set up this and you have it perfectly scaped and you have all your plants in, you're now going to hit some ugly times. It's not always going to be perfect, especially in the beginning. And most people don't show that enough. So don't get discouraged when you hit that ugly phase while you kind of get everything under control.
So Dwayne, you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but is there someone or somewhere that you kind of pull your inspiration from primarily when you first started in the hobby?
Yeah, so I would say I don't know what your protocol is in shouting out folks. I don't know the guy, but there's a YouTuber. I think his name is like MD something. I forgot his last
MD Fish Tanks, maybe.
MD Fish Tanks. He's out in the UK.
Yeah.
And I just love his design. I just, he does a good job of, well, a couple things. So I like his approach to just being somewhat carefree and just like embracing it. So he has a very carefree approach to how he puts together his tanks. But I really like how his use of kind of natural aquarium scapes. So I think there's a natural aquarium scape, the natural scapes that come out of Japan, and those are beautiful and they're very artistic and they're amazing. But then there's like kind of natural scapes that will kind of look like, to an extent you could put yourself underwater in the middle of a river and look towards the bank and see what you see. I think his approach more mimics that. It's going to be wildness of nature. It's not necessarily meant to be an improvement on nature, but just kind of an expressive nature. That's what I sought to do with this tank, and I think his inspiration has been critical. There are also a couple guys that helped me put together when I installed the tank here in New York. Their names are Josh and Alan out of Aquascapers here in New York. Aquascapes here in New York. They've been hugely helpful to me. These are two guys who have, I think they have an aquarium maintenance installation business here in New York City. But when they came over, they were just hugely helpful and just pointing me in the right direction as to what type of things I should get. And as I've been building out the tank and maintaining the tank these past several months, they've been a great resource to me. So I'll send them pictures, and just having people like an inspirational person like MD, and then having folks that you can actually interact with on a day-to-day basis and asking questions, the stupid questions you probably wouldn't ask anybody else, has been super helpful.
Yeah, I really like the MD Fish Tanks channel. There's a lot of really good inspiration there, and I can definitely see with your tank how you drew from that, which was one of the reasons we picked it.
I was going to bring that up. Okay, when we were all sitting there and going through the submissions and we're clicking through, when we looked at yours, number one thing was like, it looks so natural. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate it and love that. And like you said, there's some really cool like Dutch and crazy stuff out there that has beautiful artistic stuff. But the fact of how natural this looked stopped us. And that's really why we chose you, is because it just looks like completely from nature.
Yeah, I really love the artistic ones like you were talking about, but I definitely lean towards the more natural tanks for sure.
This one is perfectly replication of that. So with the Waterbox, of course, there's got to be a maintenance routine and schedule to keep everything happy. What does yours look like as far as dosing, maintenance, care? What would someone be looking at if they were trying to do something similar?
Yeah, I would say my maintenance schedule kind of mimics some other aspects of my life. So, from a personal basis, I work in a very systematic world. So I work in an investment management firm, and very systematic in the way that we approach kind of investing and identifying ideas. So I thought I would lend that experience, which is the only thing that I really have, towards the maintenance of a tank. So I tried to systematize everything, and I don't necessarily recommend this for everybody. This is for me. So as much as I could automate to make my life easier, I did. So from things like feeding. So I automate my feeding. I actually took the feeding automator off of here. So I wanted to be precise in what I feed my fish. So I automate the feeding so they get a specific feeding every day. I automated, we're looking at the sump right now. I automate things like the dosing of fertilizer. You'll see in the back right corner that I have my fertilizer dosing. So those go off every day on a specific amount of basis. In terms of actually the changing of water and maintaining kind of the media. One of the things I semi-automate is having a fluidized media bed, so that's self-cleaning in of itself, so this limits the amount of work I do. And changing water, that's the one thing I couldn't automate, not yet at least. At some point, I think I'll actually gravitate to doing more of a automated water change, but today I change about 20 to 40% of water every week to 10 days or so, whenever I have a window in which I could do it. But I'm pretty religious about that. And during kind of that water change period is when I get my hands wet and go through the tank and kind of clean up any dead leaves, do any trimming of some of the stems in the back. I might move some things around from time to time. I would say that aspect, I think get my hands wet once a week. I probably get my hands in the tank almost every day. So I think one aspect of kind of just general maintenance is to the extent you see something in the tank, just take care of it immediately. So if I see a leaf that like is falling apart, or I see a little bit of algae on a rock or a leaf, I'll try to take care of it immediately, as opposed to waiting until a problem gets out of hand.
It's a good plan. I had to say, in that sump, there's a lot of media happening. Yeah. Can you tell us what the ones in the bags is versus the one that's being tumbled, and why so much of it? Just so people know, because it does seem, most people don't have a sump, so you have a lot going on here.
Admittedly, this is probably overkill. So I think I was, when I set up the tank, I was just paranoid. Well, I knew I was going to have a large stocking of fish, and I appreciate the plants will probably help me a lot in keeping my water somewhat pure and just keeping everything somewhat balanced. But I wanted to kind of over filter the tank with as much media as possible. So, I start with the stock. So, you guys apply the tank with a filter stock. So the filter stock that's really all the mechanical media, most of the mechanical media that I have in the tank is through the filter stock. And then in the next chamber there, I suppose in a, I'm not as familiar with saltwater aquariums, but I suppose in the next chamber there is where some folks would have more saltwater oriented equipment. Mm-hmm. Here I just put ceramic media. So there are several bags, probably a couple dozen bags of ceramic media. I do have some filter floss there. My one cheat in the tank, some people are not big believers in chemical filtration. I am. I think it just keeps the water just looking like distilled gin, or just keeps it looking like glass. Mm-hmm. So I do have some charcoal, some carbon filter media in the second tank, and then I have a large fluidized bed. So the fluidized bed is a what's the K2, with the K1 media that's floating around in there. I suspect there's a lot of room for bacteria to grow, and I suspect that bacteria is helpful in eating up all the ammonia and nitrates and nitrites that might arise in the tank.
You do have a lot of fish in there, so it's good to see plenty of biological. I'm sure you could probably add about 5 times more fish in there and still be good, because you are definitely jam-packed in the sump, which is good. Stability is always your friend.
Yeah, I always like too that we have a surprisingly large amount of freshwater aquarium or planted tank keepers that use our reef tanks, that recognize that they can be used for both. I mean, obviously we design them for saltwater, but they work for freshwater just as well. So that's pretty cool. Dwayne, what do you think is the #1 tip that you could give to somebody new to keeping planted aquariums?
Yeah, I would say to the extent your budget allows, get the largest tank possible. And with that largest tank, plant as many plants as possible for your tank. So I think what's underestimated, in a way, it depends on the design, but to the extent you wanted a natural looking aquarium, to the extent your budget allows, as much as your budget allows, plant as many species of plants, as much plant as possible in an organized way. It does help keep everything somewhat stable and uniform over the course of time. The biggest issue with planted tanks is So most hobbyists will talk about is the battle with algae. So you're going to face it. It's going to be there to the extent you have as much plants as possible, eating up all the nutrients, excess nutrients in the tank. It's just helpful. And to the extent you have a large body of water and sufficient filtration, I think it helps with that process as well. So start as big as you financially can and take it from there.
It's great advice.
Yeah, something to think about. You don't run CO2 in here, do you? Even with that many plants?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's in the back. So it's CO2. I have the CO2 running about 9 hours a day. So my lights are running about 7 hours. The CO2 will come on about an hour and a half. I just have it coming on about an hour and a half before my lights come on. So I want to raise the CO2 as much as possible before the lights come on. And then the CO2 goes off about half hour before my lights come on.
Okay, I was say, I just thought about how many plants you have in there. I was like, is there any way he's actually not running CO2 with this many plants? But I figured not.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Sorry. In the video I sent, I think I took this CO2 out just for the shots because it just looks too fizzy. But it right now is current. Yeah, it's actually in the background. So you see the tube below. There's a planter box on the left side there. There's
okay. Yep, I see. All right. He pointed it out. It's been found.
Yeah. But I definitely have my drop checkers right in the foreground. You can see 2 drop checkers on either side of the tank. Letting you know there's CO2 is all right.
And you're talking about dosing, like fertilizer and stuff. What is your general dosing? What do you dose in there?
Yeah, so I use a brand. It's a DIY brand. So I buy a bunch of fertilizer salts. So it's GLA, I believe is the name of the brand. I don't recall. But I mix my own. So I have a macro mix of various macronutrients, and then I have a micro mix of various nutrients, and then I do some supplemented dosing of potassium and iron. The iron mostly for the red stem plants, and the potassium just depending on. I'll just take a look at the plants. If there's something a while back, I noticed there were some holes in some of the nubis plants, and I think I read somewhere, this may be incorrect or correct, I am not sure, I'm still experimenting, but I read somewhere just increasing some of the potassium might help with that, and it did, so I increased potassium a bit, it helped a bit. I also microdose some phosphates as well, just depending on how things look, but that's more episodic. On a daily basis, I kind of alternate from day to day. So day 1 I'll do macro, day 2 I'll do micro. But that's all set up on my automated dosing machine that'll do that for me.
Very nice. I'm sure the uptake is pretty heavy in that size aquarium with that many plants. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Dwayne, we really appreciate you tuning in and doing this interview with us. I think the viewers will get a lot of inspiration and knowledge from your tank. That's the goal of Fresh Friday, is to really provide not only inspiration but education around the hobby. So we appreciate that, and I also want to congratulate you on winning that prize as well. So
great. No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thanks for selecting me. And I really appreciate the work you guys do, and I love the tank. I tell everybody who's asked, get a water box. So
awesome. Thank you so much. So good talking to Dwayne about his aquarium.
Yes.
And from the comments, you guys are loving it. And what I've seen a lot of is just how natural it looks. And that's really what grabbed our attention on it.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about it, for sure.
All right, next up, we have Christina showing us her awesome water box.
What's up, fish heads? We have Christina here with us, coming all the way from Salem, Oregon. So we want to welcome Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
So Christina, we actually found her aquarium through our photo contest as well. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about that before, we actually pulled our owner spotlights from the photo contest that we did here recently.
Yeah, I really liked it. We typically go into our Facebook group and kind of pick and choose who we want to highlight, but this was kind of a bit more unique way to do that. So
yeah,
worked out.
We loved your aquarium. Let's talk a little bit about you and how you got into the hobby, when you got into the hobby, and how it brought you to Waterbox.
Yeah, well, a long time ago, like gosh, 15, 20 years ago, I don't even remember. I used to have a small 10-gallon that I think back now it was completely overstocked, but everything was fine. And eventually I had to move and I couldn't keep that tank. And I got out of the hobby, had a neighbor who had a betta fish. And she's like, if you don't take this fish, I'm going to have to dispose of it. So I'm like, oh, no, 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 I'll take this little fish. It was in a bowl. She changed the water once a month completely and did all these things she shouldn't be doing. So I said, I'm going to take care of this. But I couldn't remember everything. So I watched a lot of videos and a lot of YouTube and learned a lot that I had forgotten and a lot of new things. And that's what got me into the aquascaping and wanting to do a beautiful tank. And so this little fish got me into all of this. That's how it all came.
Little rescue betta.
Yes, the rescue betta turned into a big, big project. I knew it when I got it because I'm like, oh boy, I know I'm going to do this right and it's going to end up big. Yeah.
So Christina, tell us about what the water box is that we're looking at in the background and how long has it been set up?
I've had it for not too long, about 2 months. And I set it up for actually initially for my gastromycin. I have about 17 in this tank. You just can't see them all. And then I started thinking and talking to some people online who have rainbow fish, and they said you can do both together. And I thought, well, that would be really great. And I learned that I could do that. And so I actually have angelfish too. So this is really a work of gastromycin, keeping good water flow in the tank, having the rainbows on the top for, something that I can see more of, and then the angels because, I really wanted them. So I'm working it all out with water temperature, water flow, trying to keep the rainbows, everybody happy, plus the angelfish because they don't like too much flow. And this is this tank, and this is what this was for. So that's how I ended up creating this tank. So I would have done a lot more plants and done a lot more aquascaping, but I needed to keep a lot of rocks on the bottom for all the gastromycin. So I'm trying to blend the two together, and it turned out really well, and they all seem happy.
What model Waterbox is this? And how did you learn about Waterbox?
It's a 4820. So it's a 72-gallon. And I learned about Waterbox a while ago. It was back in September when I first started, when I got that little betta fish. And it wasn't in my price range because I was looking for something smaller too. And I never thought I'd get such a big one. And so I got another tank, and that one was nice. And it was a little bit less expensive. But after I set it up, I realized I wanted something really, really good quality. And I wanted something bigger because I just couldn't get all the fish that I wanted in this small little aquarium. It wouldn't work, right? They wouldn't be happy. And so I looked up Waterbox again, and I saw that the price for such a high-end tank was actually less than the other high-end tanks that I had been looking at. And I did a lot of research on it, and you guys had really great responses to people who had purchased your tanks before and your stands. And I really love the fact that there's aluminum. I think it's aluminum, right? Yeah, aluminum underneath all the outside. So for integrity, if should there ever be any kind of water issue, that stand will last. I had that problem before where I had another tank and it had leaked, and I had to get rid of the entire thing because the stand was ruined from the water, and that was an emergency. And so with this, it would never happen. So I really like that. And so I ended up purchasing this tank, and my only thing I can say is I wish I got the size up because I want an even bigger one. So I think that's on my list. So I got to save up.
That's how it always works out.
Yeah, I feel like when we talk to people, they always say my biggest regret is I didn't go bigger. So that is
so true. It's so true. It's so true. And then you end up having all these multi-tanks.
Yeah.
But this is a beautiful tank, and the quality is beautiful, and it's so high end, and I love it. And the stand is really good quality, and the whole thing is great. And I like the fact that you have leveling legs. None of the other high-end stands have that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I love the fact that a betta fish turned into this beautiful system behind you. That's so awesome. I mean,
That's going all in right there. 100% all in.
yeah, because I mean, you did such an amazing job on the aquascape. I love how much open space you left in the tank. I'm a big fan of that.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I know. I wanted that too. I like the fish to be able to swim. I want them to feel safe with the plant, so the place to go or to hide. But I also want to have a lot of space for them to swim. And then down below, I have all the rocks and nooks and crannies and things for the gastromyces. And I also change the rocks in and out with other rocks that have more algae on them that I have in another little tank that's up in the sun in a room that's up where it gets a lot of sun. And I switch them out so they have a little more to eat, because this is a new tank and it doesn't have, the rocks and things don't have that biofilm that I wanted on there. That will take some time.
Yeah, absolutely. With it being a newer aquarium, have there been any certain challenges that you've faced with this? Because we know that the beginning of an aquarium can be a little bit rocky. Have you faced anything in particular?
Yes, I had algae. I had staghorn algae. Oh my goodness. I had the new light. Wasn't sure quite like how high to have the light. Wanted to have algae on the rocks. Planted everything, but it had only been freshly planted, so it hadn't really come in yet. And I got so much algae, and it was a big job. And I battled through it. And I had another tank that had the same issue on. I should have learned from that one, but I didn't. And I ended up, because I have a lot of epiphytes, it made it easier for me. Those are like Anubias and things like that I could actually, that are on I have a lot of them on rocks and things, and also the Java fern. I was able to get it out. And then I was able to dip it in a product from 2 Hour Aquarist, and that product is Fix. And that was fantastic. It killed the algae. My little algae eaters were able to eat all the dead algae off. They loved it when I put them back in again. It's very safe for your shrimp and your fish. And it worked fantastic. So now my tank is pretty much algae free. I put the light down a lot less. I have it much less light on the tank than I did before. And I'm watching it really carefully should I start to get some more algae on it again. But the more plants you have, the less algae you're going to have. I just didn't want to put too many plants in because of my situation. But I worked through it. And with that product, it really, really helped.
It doesn't even look like there was ever an algae problem. It looks super clean now. It looks great.
Thank you.
But it's one of those finding the balancing act, right? Between light and nutrients and the amount of plants and stuff, and like a learning curve, because every aquarium is different. I'm pretty sure if you've even had 100 of them, you can still end up with those algae outbreaks in any new system.
Yes, and I was using the fertilizer every day, like they said. That I think was a big mistake. So I really am holding back on that fertilizer now because it's still really new. And then I'm going to slowly start incorporating it again, watching carefully. Another thing I want to say is water parameters. When you're starting a new tank, really watch that, the ammonia, the nitrites, the nitrates, because if that goes off, you could lose all your fish. So that's something that I learned a lot about it. I've been really careful with, and I still am. I still test.
Christina, was there a specific resource or YouTuber or Instagram page or something like that you found your inspiration for setting up your specific aquascape?
Yeah.
Or system in general?
Yeah, it was a lot of different YouTube videos, but I really like MD Fresh Fish Tanks. He is really inspirational and positive, and he uses a lot of the Java fern. And when I watch him, and it just feel like, hey, I can do this too. So he's really helped me a lot. MJ Aquascaping I liked. Green Aqua, liked them too. George Farmer, I liked him also. Blake's Aquatics and Bentley. But I think mostly MD Fish Tanks in terms of aquascaping, if you want to watch that. And then what I found is really helpful is when there's a product that you're interested in getting, let's say it's like a filter, or even for you guys, for your mesh lid. I made that mesh lid myself. It was the first time I'd ever done it. I looked on YouTube and I thought, okay, I'm interested in water boxes. Let's see what they have to say. So I looked up Waterbox mesh lid and I found information on that. And I watched it carefully and I read about it. And then I thought, I'm going to try this. And it worked. It worked really well. It took some time. I had to be careful, measure everything like 3 times, but it turned out beautiful. I mean, I'm really, really happy with it. And the price was great compared to these prefabricated ones that you send in for. And they take like 3 months to come back, which is too long.
Yeah. There's such a valuable information out there with YouTube and social media and stuff now that there wasn't before, that you can get so many different ideas or like learn how to do something before you even try it. It's a great resource.
And there's a lot of really good freshwater YouTube channels, and I watch MD Fish Tanks too. As a matter of fact, we did an interview earlier, and that's what he recommended as well.
That's who gave him inspiration.
Yeah,
He's very popular.
Yeah, it makes it so that I think that you feel that you can do this too. You know, it's not so complicated. But really, if you want to like get a filter or something, look up the name of the filter, put it into YouTube, see what people say about it. They talk about how to set it up and everything. And lots of times, you know, that helps a lot. Even when you get the directions, you're still kind of confused. But the videotapes, the YouTubes make a huge difference.
That's very true. So I'm sure people want to know, what are you doing for maintenance on this aquarium? Like, what's your maintenance schedule? What equipment do you have? Dosing, any of that to kind of keep such a beautiful, successful planted aquarium?
I use the Python for removing the water. I do it once a week. Is pretty much my maintenance schedule. Once a week, I'll take about 40% of the water out, which is quite a bit, but it's because I have the gastromycin and all those rainbow fish. And then I use Prime, of course, to make sure that I don't have any ammonia or any heavy metals or anything in there. I just use a little sponge. I clean all the glass. I haven't gotten the magnetic one, though. I think that's a good idea. Probably going to get that. And I do use like a turkey baster. And because when you have like aqua soil, which I have in the back, and all these rocks, which I can't always move, I take that turkey baster and I'll stick it down there with the siphon next to it, and I'll just kind of squeeze it. And then that helps all the detritus and fish food things come up, and then you can take that out with the siphon. So it's been really, really helpful to do that. And then my setup is I've got 2 inlets and 2 outlets because I really wanted good water circulation and flow in the tank. And it's about 1,300 gallons an hour. You can see it's got 2 inflows and 2 outflows. I have a CO2 reactor because it is a larger tank. I wanted that reactor because I felt the CO2 would work better with that. And that's about, and Cactoily, which I have, which monitors my pH, my TDS, and the temperature, which I like that a lot. That's a very good product. I know they have those things for saltwater tanks, and you can use those too, but I'm only using those 3 features on it for the fresh.
Simple, but works.
Yeah. How about the lighting? I also noticed you have some ambient lighting as well back there, it looks like.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of that product. I have a tube in the back, which makes that blue light. And in fact, you could have it being many different colors. I just chose blue because I'd read that that's supposed to be the color that makes fish the most relaxed. After studies, they've done studies on that. So I chose blue based on that. And I have a Weeks Aqua light on this tank. I had purchased that before you guys came out with your lights. I didn't know about yours yet. And I like that light. It's a good light. It's a little lower priced than some of the other lights out there, but it has a lot of different options in terms of color and setting it up. It does have, red, green, blue, white, and UV that you can adjust manually also.
Well, your plants definitely like it. They look very happy under it.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty intense lighting system too. I like the ambient light.
I'm still working with it.
The ambient light's
the light
pretty
behind
cool.
it.
Yeah, well, I like that. I like that. It gives the tank a nice effect, I think. I think it also
very soothing.
I think it makes the seams. I've always liked on the clear series the way the blue kind of comes through those seams, and it looks like it's making it pop even more.
Yes, it is. It is. And I like it too. I forget the name of that product. I think if you just look up like aquarium background light.
Yeah.
Background light. That's the key. That product will pop up. And there's a couple, Amazon has it and some other people carry it too. And it wasn't expensive. I think maybe $60 or something.
Okay.
Nice.
And it's a tube that runs the entire length of the tank.
That's pretty cool to know that blue has been shown to calm fish down.
Yeah.
Like that's funny. They can do studies on that, but it's good to know, especially if you have like a big group of fish. If you keep them calmer, there's gonna be less aggression and they're happy.
Yeah.
Yes,
like it.
that's why I chose that. I had a lot of other options, but I was like, if that makes them happy, I'm doing blue.
So, Christina,
That whole thing is about keeping them happy.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is like the $1 million question. What's the number one tip you would give to someone looking to set up a planted aquarium?
Study your plant. If you're not going to have CO2 and you're not going to have a fancy light, really look into getting the lower light plants. That's important. I like Buse plants because they give a lot of information on like lower light plants and higher light plants and different color plants. You don't want to start getting highlight plants and plants that need a lot of CO2 if you don't have that. So, there's no problem in doing it if you have the CO2, but just don't invest a lot of money into all these fancy plants if you don't have the proper equipment to keep them alive. The Anubias and Buse and Java Fern and a lot of other ones that I don't remember all the names of do fantastic in just a tank without CO2. So you can totally do it. But just make sure you don't get plants that need it if you're not going to have it.
Do you think
And
people
good
get
aqua
wrapped
soil.
up with seeing this pretty like red plant or something and they just grab it and like put it in their aquarium? But there are a lot of requirements different from types of plants, stem plants to Anubias and stuff like that. So just knowing what you're putting in there according to what you can actually keep.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Just read up on it. Don't just buy them right off the bat without kind of looking into it and thinking about what your tank is going to be and what you want from your tank.
Research. Always good in the aquatics hobby, no matter what you're doing.
Or ask your local fish store.
Yeah. If any of our viewers want to kind of follow along, see your aquarium, is there any social platforms that you use that you do show your aquarium on? Any progress and that kind of stuff?
I do a little bit on my YouTube. It's under Christina, Love of Fish, and that's where you can find me. And I think that's about it. That's the only place I really put anything, but I'm putting more on there now. So, but I have another tank that I have on there also.
Awesome. So people can find you on YouTube, follow along with the journey of your clear.
Yeah. We can put that,
but I love your
link in the
tanks.
description. Too.
Yeah.
Your tanks are great. They're the best. I mean, highly recommend. If anybody's on the edge, I'm trying to make this a sales thing, but I have tried other high-end tanks and even ones that are even more expensive. But the quality from this tank is just as good, if not better. I love the way you guys have that, I don't know what you call it, that seaming where the two come together at kind of an angle like this at the corner.
The miter joints, yes.
Yeah.
The miter joints, they're beautiful. The glass is so clear. The quality of the stand. I'm not going to ever go back to anybody else, just you guys.
We really appreciate
Yeah, thank you so
kind
much.
words.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the truth.
Thank you so much. Well, Christina, we greatly appreciate you tuning in or joining us for Fresh Friday. As you already know, Fresh Friday, the goal here is to educate and inspire other hobbyists. And I think that your tank is really great inspiration. So we appreciate
It inspired us, so
Yeah.
we love it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Christina, she was awesome to talk to.
Yeah, really great interview. And she's been in the chatting with you guys too, which is great. We appreciate you coming in there to answer some questions for them.
Yeah, it's so nice to be able to ask the questions to the person who's actually, with the aquarium to give you some more insight on what we didn't hit on topics or whatever. So, but we are ready with some winners for the 4 $500 Waterbox gift cards that we're giving away on this stream. Ready for the first two?
Ready to roll?
All right, first two winners. Ready?
Oh yeah. Kate Kruger and Pete Luna. That's what I was doing, right? I forgot who was.
Yes. You did it so late, it caught me off guard. Anyone who's winning today, you'll get an email reaching out to you and we'll get it taken care of. So we have two more winners because we're giving away $2,000 in this stream. Winners ready? Are
Calvin Liu and Jack Klimper. Congratulations, you guys. Giving away all the monies today. We're giving away all the monies.
that's now at 8.
So what stream are we on?
Yeah,
4?
8,000. We've given away $8,000 so
there's-
far today. 4,000 more dollars to go.
Yes.
$12,000 going out today, so it pays to be watching. We are back here in about 15 minutes.
Yep.
So we took a trip down to Florida Aquatic Nursery to talk all about plants, hard to keep, easier ones, all of that stuff. So with the experts down there, so definitely want to tune in.
This is a wonderful episode, so definitely make sure to hop on over to the next stream. We'll see you in a little bit.
Fresh Friday is happening now. Save up to 20% site-wide now until July 26th.
Take advantage of our financing options with rates as low as 0% APR for 12 months.
To get all the details, visit waterboxaquariums.com.